Tom, our co-host here, is really in the space of ground up development and horizontal space. So, buying these value add or property turnaround in the multifamily is definitely something unique to Tom. But I think there's a lot of folks out there who might have started out just like yourself, buying individual properties and kind of building that passive income. But what really makes multifamily an attractive asset, other than the fact that the first investment that you actually made in multifamily was a complete home run and maybe that got you addicted? But for the novice, for the individual investors, what really makes multifamily a space to want to be in?
Great question. I just wanted to say it's passive income if you're an LP. It's very not passive if you're running these deals. A lot goes into the execution, management of the asset, the personnel, the residents, and so on. But if you're an LP investor, it's definitely passive. And the reason I like multifamily is, number one, everybody needs to live somewhere. This is an essential asset class. It was true before COVID. It was even more true during COVID and after COVID. But I think this pandemic has sort of really driven that point home. Everybody needs to live somewhere. And so that's number one. Number two, it's just a massive, massive market, just a huge opportunity to attack and pursue. Number three, it's very predictable and controllable to some degree, as long as you're not grossly overpaying for your assets. Generally, rents go up. They don't go down. It sort of tracks with inflation or a little bit better. Expenses are more or less predictable. And so we sort of have a formulaic understanding of how a deal might perform. Of course, there's some things we don't know. How much does rent grow? What's our exit cap rate and our selling price when we sell? There's a few opens. We can make pretty educated guesses. So there's a lot that we can dial in terms of predictability. I've owned hotel assets where it's not the case. It's sort of a lower risk and strong return asset class. And, of course, there's benefits from ongoing cash flow. About half of our returns in any new acquisition come from cash flow. The other half is forecast from property appreciation. There's, bricks and sticks hedge against inflation. There's obviously tax benefits of converting income into capital gains, tax rates. So there's a whole host of reasons, but hopefully that covers
Craig,
much of it.
I would say if I were a listener hearing this, right, I'm probably thinking to myself, well, I want to diversify away from the equity market. It's kind of crazy right now, volatile, and real estate has to be one of the options they're considering. So within real estate, if I were an investor thinking about, should I go into a fund that manages single family rentals? Should I buy my own single family rental or do a syndication with multifamily? I think some of the things that I would be focusing on, mainly the benefits of a bigger project like yours, is one, there's a risk hedge when things go bad. And what I mean is, if you think about a flip, tear down a wall, you have a $30,000 budget, there's some black mold, well, you're out 10 grand. That's a third of your bottom line, right? You can afford to see your lease rates drop, or if vacancy go up 5-8%, and still make your cash flow month over month. And what that means is, when things get bad, you have time to adjust. You're not in a scramble. So the cash flows are more predictable. And I think that relates to the investor's bottom line. That means they have more predictable cash flow themselves, right? And then two, and it sounds like Manchin's not going to allow the tax hikes, which is good. But if we see tax hikes next year or the year after, then I think everyone should be thinking about taxes, right? And the bonus depreciation and cost seg that goes with multifamilies like you're doing is substantial. So I think a lot of investors get too focused on cap rates, IRR, cash flow, but they're not considering the massive tax benefits. So from my perspective, I would say the two main benefits would be the predictability of cash flow and then the tax implications as well.
Sounds good. I totally agree.
I like that all. One of the things I did want to piggyback, because there are obviously, two different ways to go about multifam. And obviously with the compression of cap rates and how expensive it is to get into a multifamily deal, especially in a market you want to be in, you're looking at something in the threes or low fours if you're lucky, and depending on what market. That being said, we are seeing a lot of folks go to ground up development.